Hello and welcome to the Arcade Heroes podcast, I believe episode 7? Is that right, everybody? Yes, we'll just say 7, even if it's wrong. This is actually attempt 2 at this podcast, unfortunately due to a technical glitch that I've never seen before. The other podcast that we recorded about a week ago or 2 weeks ago was unusable. So we're back again. I'm Adam Pratt, owner of ArcadeHeroes.com and owner of the Game Good Arcade in Utah. And joining me once again is Sean McDermott from All Castle Games. Hello, Sean.
Yoo-hoo! How's it going?
Word. It's going well.
We have a special guest today.
We do, yes. Sara Zielinski from upstate. Is that right? Upstate New York, or am I wrong about the upstate part?
Yes, upstate New York or Western New York, whatever you want to call it, is fine by me.
What's her last name again? What's the last name? Sarah what?
Zielinski.
Oh, Christ, I'm going to screw that up.
Don't worry about it.
All right.
Just say Sara Z. But welcome to the podcast, Sarah. I guess we'll start off. How about a little bit about yourself? What is it that you do with arcades? How are you involved with them and whatnot?
Well, I'm Sarah, and I run a website called The Arcade Photographer on Facebook. And I'm a big fan of simulator games like the Sega R360, Galaxy Force, and whatnot, and whatever new games are out these days that are simulators.
Right.
And, yeah.
She's also a big fan of redoing podcasts.
Yeah, that's okay. Don't
Gotta
worry
be a huge
about
fan
it.
of that. Woo! So, yeah, this one will work this time. I guarantee it.
Don't do
and
that.
of course, it doesn't matter if you're not hearing that, then it wouldn't matter anyways. So, I guess before we get into talking about the wonderful world of arcade news and things of that nature, what have you guys been up to lately since we did our last podcast attempt?
It's like I'm stuck in the time vortex here. I don't even know what's going on anymore because there was that other podcast, but it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
We got Time Crisis 3, and it broke right away. So
Ooh.
It made me cry on the inside. Of course, I got it shipped with the wrong header. You know, it had the deluxe header, and I have a standard, and
Oops.
doesn't really. I had to get the old Dremel out and cut it because it didn't fit right.
Oh, dang.
But I got it. It looks pretty. I put LEDs in it, and I put LEDs in the front gun holster area too, where it had those neon tubes. Because one of them was missing, of course. And but I do have the original guns. They do recoil. I actually have a couple spare guns that came with it to make up for everything else.
Nice.
But it did sit. Excuse me. It did sit in a warehouse for probably 2 years or something. So there's a lot of rust. So
yeah, that'll happen to those games, unfortunately.
The monitors worked, but go ahead.
Oh, just go ahead on the Time Crisis. I'll get to that in a second.
Well, I mean, the monitors worked for a day,
Oh.
and then the next day they started zoinking. So I was I figured, well, we'll let them burn in and see what happens. That's my, if those are pretty good Samwa monitors too. So I mean,
both of them died at the same time.
No, one of them's going, but the other one died. I got a call from the location that the screen was flipping, and I don't know what the hell that means. I've never seen a screen flip, but it turned out that the high voltage was going up and down. It was like the flyback had a problem. So
I see.
I was told by Namco that those flybacks are kind of expensive. So
of course they are. They're from.
It's probably going to be around $300 or $400 to fix the chassis.
Holy crap! Wow. Yeah.
I mean, but it needs that CRT for the light gun, So.
Right. Yeah. That is an issue. I know that's been thrown out there before. Is what happens when all these parts, when we run out of parts to replace these CRTs, and CRTs can't really keep them going anymore, just because a lot of the parts aren't manufactured. What happens to light gun games?
I have 5 27-inch CRTs that I pull out of Initial D games, and I know that they're good. I just I'm gonna fix this one because it has the flat CRT. The CRT's got the flat.
Yeah, that they did later in the CRT life.
It looks a lot nicer. The other one's got the rounded too, but I'd have to go and swap it out. It would look goofy, and I figured since that Speedy's One Stop will fix it for us. I mean, it'll cost more money, but it'll look right in the end. So
Well, that's important.
And I like that game. I like the new one too. Just saying. But... Okay, Sarah, what you been up to?
Okay, I recently visited the Strong Museum of Play in Rochester, New York, and I viewed their collection of games and played a lot of games while I was there. I also visited the Great American Arcade in Niagara Falls and the other arcade that's in Niagara Falls. There's 2 of them. And I visited Dave & Buster's recently as well, so I played some new games.
You've been all over the place.
I've never been to Dave & Buster's yet.
Really? Never?
No, I've been meaning to go to the one in Milwaukee, but I heard it wasn't very good. So I'm going to be going to round 1 maybe in October. So.
Right, the one in
Yeah,
Illinois.
Go ahead.
We don't have round 1 over here, but we do have Dave & Buster's, and it's moving to, my Dave & Buster's is going to be moving to another location in October, so we're going to be getting a brand new Dave & Buster's. Although our Dave & Buster's has actually been really good lately.
Yeah, they've been growing quite a bit, opening up a lot of spots out there, except for where I'm at. They're not in Utah at all, but
That's weird.
visited them in Florida before when I've been down there for trade shows and stuff.
Yeah, they're the top of their game. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
basically Dave & Buster's. Dave & Buster's is the big game over here in Western New York. They're basically the only game in town for arcade games, unless you want to count Adventure Landing. And I've been to Adventure Landing, and let's just say they're pretty bad on games. Their games aren't really well maintained, and that's putting it nicely. So I would imagine that everyone up here would probably just want to go to Dave & Buster's, and that would be the big game in town around here for arcades.
Right. And the Great American Arcade you mentioned, they just opened recently, correct?
Yes, very recently. Yeah, they're pretty popular. I've seen quite a few people in there, and it's a very nice arcade. It's new, it's well lit, it's in a popular tourist area, and most importantly, the games all work. So that's a good thing.
Yep. Definitely so. They don't have any Time Crisis 3s with the monitors burn out, right, Sean?
No, but our
have an out-of-order
Adventure
tag
Landing
on
does.
Hey, I have an out-of-order tag on one side. You can play the other side. So at least
Right.
we didn't just leave it like that. I could have just left it like that with the monitor flickering and said, screw it.
Well, it's good you're not one
Yeah,
of
that's
those
pretty much what
operators.
Adventure Landing does here.
I mean, there's no
Yeah.
way you can avoid breakdowns in this business, man. I'm sorry.
No. Nope. Well, I've been fixing a lot of stuff lately. My Star Wars Battle Pod actually had an odd issue with the firing trigger in the joystick. I took the shell apart, and it seems that it was just an odd misalignment or something like that. Kids particularly get really violent with that, jerking the joystick around as hard as they can. But when they just sit in there and don't
Is
play,
that the Hap Yoke stick, I wonder? Or
I'm not sure.
they used in
Namco
Trilogy.
tech support called me when they found out that when I mentioned I was having an issue, and they recommended pulling it apart to check the wiring and make sure that the wiring wasn't off. But I started with pulling the joystick shell apart, and I mean it doesn't look like a Hap yoke, but again, I didn't get down into the bottom part, so I'm not 100% sure. Namco did say they didn't have any joysticks in stock at the moment, so they were happy that it was something simple, because all I did was open it up, and then that seemed to fix it, and then I put it back together, and it's working just fine. So always odd when those sorts of things happen, but I prefer them over the super expensive repairs. And other than that, I've been replaced some lights and some marquees. I've had
I saw
several
that.
games
I
down.
saw that. I was gonna comment some smart ass thing, but I didn't. So.
Well, thanks.
Since you're beating
yeah.
up in a time crisis here.
Yeah, it's just a few games where the lights were burnt out, so just went and got a bunch of F15 T8s, I think they're
and FSU
called.
Starters. FS2 or FSU?
Actually, there's a couple of games where it's the starters that are bad, and so like my Ninja Turtles. So I need to. I didn't pick some up. I thought I had some laying around here, but apparently I don't, or I've just misplaced them, and just need to get those and replace those. I also got the lighting mostly working on my DDR machine. I need to figure out what's wrong with the neon lights. None of the neons are coming on the front, so that might just be a connection. But
on the speakers.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
both of them are out.
Shot.
Yeah.
I think they run on the same ballast together.
But for some reason, when I got it, all of the halogen lights and the marquee, they had been disconnected. They just unscrewed them and left them inside the little box. So
well, some locations complained about that, like the
I
lights
can
flashing.
tell why.
Some of the
because they're
players used
really,
to too.
Yeah, I had a player in last week who he's a big DDR player, and he mentioned that he's actually the one that pointed out to me. He's like, "Did you know that the lights are in there?" I was like, "Oh no, I hadn't noticed actually." And so, but he mentioned that it can be blinding sometimes. With
You know what I tell them? I tell them to suck it up and just be a
go blind and play, enjoy it.
real DDR players play it like on stage.
Play blind, right? Well, he suggested putting some cellophane or something like that
I
in
think
there.
there's supposed to be cellophane in there though.
They have them there, but just something to darken it a little or turn the intensity down. Just
Or do the lazy op thing and just take the photos. Whoa!
Yeah,
What's that?
I like to have my stuff looking good.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's been the stuff that's been going on with everybody. I guess as far as news goes, this week on Arcade Heroes, sorry, I haven't really come across any news stories except for the Star Wars stuff.
Hey man, that Star Wars Standard Edition thing is big news for me.
That is. So I got those pictures. Well, I guess for those that aren't familiar with some of the inside baseball stuff at the industry, not sure how many of those listening might be in that group, but every August or so, there's an organization called the American Amusement Machine Association. Is that right, Sean?
It's AAMA.
Yeah, AAMA is usually what we call it. And they have a gala or a gala sort of event that's for people within the AAMA. And usually some of the companies that attend this will bring some new product. And so it's usually there's a dearth of new game announcements between March and April and August. Oftentimes there aren't a lot of new announcements at this gala. It's usually just one or two games, maybe a few more. But yeah, so as you probably saw on the site already, the Star Wars Battle Pod without the pod, the standard version of the game was shown off there in a linked capacity. The software links up to 2 units, and so my understanding is they are going to roll this out in time so that movie theaters across the country can have the Star Wars game there at their arcade that they have when Episode 7 comes out.
Well, it's too bad I did my buying already. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, that did cross my mind because, I mean, as you guys know, I have a Star Wars Battle Pod that I got in and then found out about
It's like
this.
a bait and switch, man.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of why I'm waiting on Time Crisis 5, because I would much rather prefer to see a standard version of Time Crisis 5, which is mentioned in the Japanese documentation. When they first announced Time Crisis 5, the big Japanese sites over there did mention a price and specifically said TC5 standard for about $10,000 less. And so I'll hold out hope for that. Every time I've talked with Namco, I've bugged them saying they need to bring it over here. Don't know if they'll listen to one guy, but fingers crossed. I'm hoping that they will do something like 242-inch screens for Time Crisis 5 and then release the newest software. Now, Sarah, you said you got a chance to play Time Crisis 5 at Dave & Buster's?
No, I actually didn't play Time Crisis 5. I just walked by it.
Okay.
Yeah, I did see it there, yes.
Gotcha.
And I played the Angry Birds. I played the Angry Birds game.
Oh.
And I have played Star Wars Battle Pod in the past, so.
Gotcha. How's the Angry Birds arcade play?
Well, it was pretty slow when I was at Dave & Buster's, even though I went on a Wednesday when they have half-price games. So no one else was really playing anything in there because there was about 10 people in there. Mm-hmm. But the Angry Birds, I thought it was pretty fun. It is a little bit hard to pull back on the slingshot, but I don't think it's anything that's too big of a deal.
I saw little kids doing it in like a Let's Play video of it. So
mm-hmm. Oh, yeah,
they have to use their whole weight, but they can do it.
Oh, really? I guess that's a little surprising.
Well, I saw a video on Off Topic of that Disney Twosome game. What the hell is that thing called?
Tsum Tsum? Is that how it's said?
I don't know.
Is that
It's
like
TSUM.
Disney Tsum Tsum by Konami.
I would love to play that game, but it's nowhere around here.
Why did they put a T in front?
Well, that's because it's Japanese.
Ah, for crying out loud. Yeah, but they're
So,
trying.
no, I agree. I would love to see one or test one here and see what would happen. I mean, I don't know how well it did at the round one test. It's
Well, I
currently
saw
testing at
Let's
Dave &
Play
Buster's.
videos, so I mean,
Right, a lot of people did that, and I mean, with the Disney name attached to it, that's a lot there. The game style, from what I watched, it looks like all sorts of different connect the items puzzle games that you can find all over mobile devices.
The one Let's Play I saw said they had to wait 45 minutes to play it in a line, and they showed a picture of the line. It was pretty long, so I mean,
Well,
definitely
I guess that would, yeah, and I know that because it's essentially an interactive vending machine or a vending machine with a video game element to it.
Yeah, they're kind of like amiibos, like the little things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have NFC near field communication chips in them so that you can use that, which from what I read, I think it said something like you can buy an extra game or do a special versus mode when both of them are using the Tsum Tsums. And of course, the Tsum Tsums are based on Disney characters. They had a special pink Minnie or Elisa doll or something like that.
See, you and me, we just have to fill a shipping container from Japan.
I think that was supposed to be Elsa.
Right,
An
Elsa.
Elsa doll, yeah.
Sorry,
I've never seen Frozen, or
I've never seen it either,
Frozen?
so
Okay,
don't feel bad.
Well, I have a daughter.
I
who
saw it
loved
20 times a day.
I didn't go to the movie theater. I was working when she went and saw it, but of course, like many little girls out there, she loved it. I did come home the day the DVD came out, and I caught the end, so I know how it ends, but I didn't understand what was going on. I just figured it was kind of standard Disney fare. But I know everybody out there is obsessed with Elsa. Well, fortunately, that crowd is probably listening to this podcast for me to embarrass myself. But anyways, yeah, I think that could be big if the price was right. And
so what do you estimate the price is?
It's Konami, so
20K,
20,000. Yeah, because I mean they did a 3D racing game, Road Fighters, which I think they wanted 40,000 for. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it has two pretty huge touchscreens, and those are
right.
expensive.
I mean, everything Konami doesn't do cheap or inexpensive. Everything they touch is very, very, very pricey.
Do you know if round one is just bringing one of those and moving them around? On their website, it looked like that's
well,
what they were doing.
here's the thing that's up in the air, because if you've been reading ArcadeHeroes.com lately, then you know that there's been a lot of location tests going on. Dave & Buster's has been going crazy, just bringing stuff in. Round One USA likewise has been bringing stuff in. Right now, you can play DDR 2015 over at Round One USA at the Puente Hills Mall location. They actually, round one, that same location also just added the very first that anybody knows of, Nessica Cross Live machine. For those that don't know what that is, that was developed by Taito, released a few years ago in Japan, and it's a download system. So you can get dozens of games. A lot of them are fighter games, but they do have some others. They have some classic arcade games on there, but you simply download them all, and then they just do a payment system with the operator, and that gives the operator a huge selection. So that's there. So yeah, this Disney Tsum Tsum, it's been part of that, but it showed up around one first, but now it's over at Dave & Buster's. So my assumption is that because they're technically competitors, I'm not aware of them having any working relationship whatsoever. Whoever it is that's bringing this over here to test it to see if it's viable for distribution is passing it around. Right.
It was localized. Right. It was all English.
And so that's, to me, that's really the big question. Who is it that's behind all this? Because, I mean, for all my contacts, I have not heard yet who's behind all this. I would have to assume a lot of it's the same company. If it's Konami, I would be very surprised, because Konami, while they do have a U.S. presence, like if you fly into Las Vegas, you see that enormous Konami sign on a building there. But those are not arcade guys. Those are really just what was left of their console division.
You think Disney could be behind it, maybe?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know why they would touch DDR, or maybe Konami just said, okay, we'll let you do the Disney Tsum Tsum, but you also have to take DDR over here too, or Silent Scope Bone Eater or whatever.
Maybe
so
they're
it
trying to
could
break
be-
back in the market since Dave and Buster's is getting bigger now.
It could be. I mean, I'm sure Dave and Buster's is behind a lot of it because they've been obviously putting money behind developments. With Angry Birds Arcade, they have the exclusive on that through Labor Day. It's only after Labor Day that other operators can buy it. And so I know that was part of the deal with them doing. I don't know if they financed some of the development or what the deal was there. But, I mean, the assumption is that it would be Betson because Betson did Konami stuff in the past. But, I mean,
like
at least what I remember hearing about was with Supernova 2, Konami became very upset with Betson because of the build quality of the dance pads, which apparently use wood when they should be using metal. And so a lot of the pads were crushed by the players. And so the players understandably got very upset over the lack of
I
quality.
heard them stories and I saw them, but I got some
Right.
other news here. You remember that documentary about Insert Coins, the 90s video game era thing with Eugene Jarvis and Mortal Kombat and all that stuff?
Yeah, the one that's focusing on Midway that's being done by a ex-Midway employee.
Yeah, that got funded, so that's awesome.
Woohoo!
I
That's good
got
news.
my copy, so I don't know about you.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
those are my favorite era games. So
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out. I mean, I've done a couple of articles before on Midway prototypes. It's been 2 years, I think, or so. And I did talk with Brian F. Collin. He was one of their graphics artists for a long time, worked on a lot of games that were released, worked on a lot of games that were never released. And so that was great to interview him. He's shown up a lot lately because he goes to the Galloping Ghost Arcade in Illinois there. He's been active on social media. His company's Game Refuge, and they're doing mobile stuff now, and I think video slot machines software. But yeah, there's a lot of history there. That would definitely be interesting to
I can't wait for it to be done.
find out because I mean the thing is, I mean I'm an Atari guy. I grew up as an Atari guy.
Oh, me too.
And fortunately, there's a ton of information about Atari prototypes out there. I've talked about that on the website multiple times, and they've always been very popular posts getting into the different Atari prototypes. But a lot of the other companies, it's always been very tough to get a lot of info on them, which is a little odd. I think it's just because there might not be as many like super fans of like Midway or Taito out there because those companies never had game consoles to help solidify that, at least as far as video games.
I don't know.
Go.
Like when I started in the industry, like Midway was huge. You know.
But yeah, no, they definitely were
Namco
big. I'm
was
just
too.
saying, I think the fans that collect all that documentation, like on the Atari side, is because Atari also had a huge name for home video gaming just as much as arcade gaming, whereas Midway, I mean, they were so well known for home gaming that they went bankrupt, you know. So
Yeah, they couldn't transfer. I mean, they couldn't translate like.
right.
Or,
But I mean, in reality, right now, the company's Raw Thrills and Play Mechanics, there's a lot of ex-Midway guys over there, and so those are essentially the arcade divisions of Midway continued, just without the Midway name.
Yeah, in that documentary, there's plenty of Raw Thrill stuff in the background. So.
Yeah. I mean, like Eugene Jarvis, Raw Thrills is his company. He's still around, and George Petro, and yeah. So I mean, they're definitely the number one on the market
I don't
now.
have a single game.
Need to get with the times, man. I guess. Sorry, Sarah. Don't want to leave you out of this.
Yeah, Sarah, just try.
I wanted to say that Taito didn't really have that many arcade games in America, did they? I mean, I don't remember seeing very many around here, at least.
Space Invaders.
Well,
yeah, those are the big ones. But later on in the time, on, like in the 90s, I mean, I saw one air landing game one time, and that was about it.
That was Landing High Japan.
Yeah, that one.
What a piece of crap. I had that game. Oh.
Right. Well, Taito, I don't remember the exact year they shut down. It was like the U.S. division. They've kept the Japanese division going on. Despite
They're huge
that.
in Japan. I don't understand.
Well, not anymore.
Not really?
They were bought out by Square Enix back in 2006, and since then, while they've not wiped the Taito brand out completely, like right now, Taito is releasing maybe 2 arcade games a year.
Yeah, but they have all the entertainment places like Taito Station.
Well, no, they do have a lot of locations still, and that's how they actually got started back in the day. Was they had an arcade, and they
All of them did.
essentially cloned a Pong game, and that's how they got their start. And then they just built it up from there until, I mean, they had a lot of games pre-Space Invaders that a lot of people don't know about, but Space Invaders obviously was their breakout hit. But yeah, through the 90s, I mean, they had a lot of cool games in the 90s. They had the Taito F3 system, which was kind of an equivalent to the Neo Geo MVS with big red cartridges.
Yeah, I tried that. Atari.
But I don't know how many of those were produced for the U.S. Obviously, their sales weren't as good in the 90s as they were in the 80s. And eventually, like a lot of other Japanese companies like Capcom, when the new market crash hit around 99, 2000, 2001, whenever that was, that's when Taito closed up their U.S. shop.
That's when we lost Midway, too.
But that is a surprising thing. When Nessica Cross Live was announced last week as showing up at Round 1 USA, that took me completely by surprise, because I sat down with the guy that was Taito's overseas guy and talked with him at IAPA for about 30, 45 minutes about that, and just they were interested at the time at bringing it over here, but they thought nobody would pay for it. And because they have a very specific payment model of paying per play or something along those lines that they wanted to do. So be interesting to see how that's working out.
So is there anything you want to talk about, Sarah? We haven't heard from you in a while.
I'll talk about the Strong Museum of Play. First of all, it's in Rochester, New York. It's a children's museum with a lot of other things in it. So don't be afraid to go in there if you're just an adult and you just want to go in. Yeah, you don't have to be afraid or anything like that. It's not like a Chuck E. Cheese. And they have a big collection of arcade games. They have Star Wars They have a Star Wars Cockpit. They have Star Blade. They have the Ocean Hunter. They have a Prop Cycle. They have just tons of games. They have a big downstairs arcade, and they have a big upstairs arcade. The downstairs arcade is only going to be in operation until September 7th, I believe. So if you want to go there, you might want to get there quickly. It's best to go in the summer if you're planning on visiting the museum, because that's when they have additional games on display. Right now they have a racing exhibit as well with games like Night Driver, Hot Rod, and a race drive in Panorama.
Sweet. I wish I was closer.
Yeah, it's a bit of a drive for you guys.
A wee bit.
Yeah, but if you have kids, it's a very worthwhile place to visit. They charge admission. I think it's something like $13 for an adult, and the games are set on tokens, and the tokens are $5 for $1. And every game takes one token. So if you see a sign on the machine, it takes 2 tokens. If you put one in, the game will work.
Okay.
They're doing a special thing right now for racing games, aren't they?
Yes, they are. It's a special racing game exhibit. They have games, like I said, games like Night Driver. I think they have a Le Mans, maybe a Super Sprint, some black and white racing games like Night Driver. They had a Scud race. What is it? Super GT Scud race for you guys in the UK. Some of you might be listening today. And they also had a race drive in Panorama, a Hot Rod, and those are the ones I could really remember from that. Oh, they also have a G-Lock simulator as well.
Sweet.
And a large amount of pinball machines for you guys, including the Super Mario pinball machine where you can win tickets off of it. It's a really cool game. It works well. I played it. And they also have a Hercules. They also have a Hercules pinball machine, which is the biggest pinball machine in the world. I'm sure we all know that.
Yeah, I used to play that one at Expo. It doesn't look like
I played that one too. It's not the greatest pinball machine of all times, but it is a fun novelty to play.
It is okay when it actually works right, but it's really hard to make sure it works right. So most people haven't played one.
Games at the museum definitely work. The staff there is very passionate about keeping the games in working order because, it's an archive of games. They're working to preserve the games, so that's always a good sign.
Sweet. I know Cedar Point had a couple of those huge ones like that, too. I think they had both of them.
I think Cedar Point might have Night Driver. Or what is it? Hershey Park might have some older games, too, I think.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. I was like, wow. But
now,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, what's the newest simulator that they would have there?
Let's see. The newest simulator. Maybe the Ocean Hunter, Prop Cycle, Starblade, and G-Lock. Those are in the Star Wars cockpit. Oh, and they also have an environmental Discs of Tron. So those are basically the big games they have over there. Of course, they have a lot of other games too. Pretty much every genre is represented, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for fighting games. They probably have a Street Fighter. There's so many games there that I probably glazed over a few while I was there. There's also a lot of things to look at as well. I mean, there's display cases just full of things, just toys and games, and they have. You can also follow the history of video games from the brown box to the PlayStation 4, so they have all that set up for you to play. They have interactive stations. You can play with the brown box. You can play with the PlayStation 4 if you haven't played one yet. Any system. Well, they don't have all systems on display, but they do have quite a few.
See, when I was a kid, that would have been a museum I would have loved to have gone to. Is something like that instead of seeing an old West museum.
It's pretty much a requirement to go here if you're a fan of arcade games. Even if you're far away, I would definitely recommend it because you will find a lot of games in working order. You don't have to worry about broken things. The staff is very passionate about fixing the games. If you have a problem, I'm sure they're going to take care of you, etc., etc.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what I was going to say.
Well, what's your thoughts with the Star Wars news? One thing that we also, the last story ran on the site was about the Star Wars Battle Pod Premium. Now, when we first learned about that, when they announced the price of it being $100,000 for that, and it looked like all it had was an extra coat of nice paint. I mean, it looks cool, but it's like, is any art job really worth the additional $70,000?
It comes with that carpet, though.
Oh yeah, and the internal carpet, leather seat. That's definitely worth it. Fortunately, this Monday, we found out that a large chunk of that cost is from a motion seat. What are your thoughts on that, Sarah?
Oh, I've never tried a battle pod with a motion seat. I'm not sure if our Dave & Buster's location would be getting one of those or not, which is probably the only place I would be able to find that up here. So I don't know about that. The dome screen already kind of made me dizzy when I was playing it, so I'm not sure if a motion seat and a dome screen that makes you dizzy is going to be a good combination.
Right.
We'll have to see and find out.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you're going to see some puking incidents or something like that.
Or come with free barf bags.
Yeah, I don't think that these arcades these days are really equipped to handle people throwing up in the machines because that's not something that usually happens. Right.
I don't think they targeted arcades with this. They targeted that rich guy with the $1 million house, really.
Yeah, the rich guy who's a really big Star Wars fanatic and absolutely has to have the most premium edition.
Maybe they were just trying to sell one to George himself.
That's what I was just gonna say. This is the George. They should call this the George Lucas edition because he's the one that can afford it.
Yeah, he's the only one.
Yeah.
I wonder how many of those. I'd be interesting to know, like, how many of those they actually sell. They'll never tell you, but that'd be a good fact.
Right. Yeah, that would be interesting. But I mean, it does show that among the trends that we're seeing in the industry over the past couple of years is simulators are picking up steam. I mean, some of that's come from Enjoy Motion and them developing their new air system with the airbags to move the seats around as opposed to electrical motors or something like that that's generally more expensive. Raw Thrills is using that same air technology for their Jurassic Park Motion, which, as far as I know, after some delays, is supposed to start hitting distribution this month. It might already be out there. I haven't heard yet of any units hitting the street, but it's definitely happening very soon. And I was impressed with the motion of that. I played it at IAPA, and assuming they haven't changed anything, the most impressive part about the motion was they added a very cool effect when you're getting chased by a T-Rex that it adds a very distinctive stomp into the seat, which was very cool. And more games should have something like that, I think. But even if the seat's not motion. But yeah,
I wish they would make the game smaller, but that's just me.
Make them what?
Smaller.
Oh, right. But see,
I'm still trying to get that initial D5 through a 38-inch door. It's not happening.
Right. Well, and I agree with you. I mean, right now the FEC market's really driving a lot of these developments. Dave and Buster's Round One USA, independent FECs, but it's like, and yes, I've given in and I've picked up a few of these enormous games for my arcade here. But I mean, at the same time, I have a stronger desire. I would love to see more kits, and I've talked to other operators where they say the same thing. It's like, man, I just wish we had more kits, because for me personally, I've done a few kits that have come out along the past few years, and they've done phenomenally well. They've paid themselves off very quickly. And like my supercars, it's a pair of kits, and it does better than my dedicated cabinets, my Outrun 2 or my Batman or my Chase HQ 2. I mean, it does better than a couple of those combined, even though it's a kit. And so
I tend to agree.
Yeah, and I understand the manufacturer's perspective is like, well, we won't make as much money if we sell kits, but I mean, I would love to see more kits.
Sell both? I don't understand.
Right, sell both. I mean, obviously, Dave and Buster's and those guys are not going to be doing kits. They're going to want the dedicated versions of it. But I think they would get more sales out of operators out there that would do it.
I mean, there needs to be. Isn't somebody doing an indie kit? I think those Sky Cruiser guys are doing the indie board set thing. I think that'll drive kit sales.
Yeah, they're and that's something I saw them
at Midwest Gaming Classic last year, and I played that game.
Yeah, what'd you think?
I didn't even know it was new. It looked old, but they did a good job of convincing me it was retro. I mean, it looked legit old, but like old good, like it would have been good when Neo Geo came out,
Right. I know that's definitely what they're aiming for. So I've been talking with them about this. You can see the article on Arcade Heroes. The name of the company is Griffin Aerotech. They're trying to go old school on everything, even trying to give it some sort of name you might expect from the 90s.
Yep. He said the kits were really cheap, too. Like, I don't want to price quote them, but they were pretty reasonable.
Right, yeah. And actually, I'm looking at getting one for the arcade here, so once I get that...
They're like cheap.
Right.
But one thing he said though was like you have to use a CRT monitor for the game. Did he tell you that? Maybe they changed that since then.
That is what they're focusing on, but I asked them about doing an LCD for future proofing, and they are open to it, but their main focus for right now is making it look good on a CRT monitor.
Yeah, and they were like asking me if I had monitors for sale. No one does, not really.
Yeah, and that's the problem that I know that'll be ran into is just, I know there's been a lot of operators out there which have taken their CRTs and converted them to LCD. I've had to do that on a couple of machines where I had this Neotech monitor. I could not find anybody that was even willing to look at it because it was a model. Right, and that was it. As soon as I said Neotech, it was over. So I couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. I couldn't find anybody to fix it. So I was like, well, you know what? I have to use an LCD.
It's more economical, really. I mean, especially when the monitors get funky, and you could just throw an LCD in there. It looks goofy, but no one cares.
Well, an LCD quality has improved. I think we just need to improve the quality of conversion boards that convert them from CRT to LCD, and then maybe it'll be a lot better. But yeah, the Sky Cursor thing, I'm definitely going to see what I can do to get my hands on it. I want to have it in time for the Salt Lake Comic Con, as I am going to be taking a lot of games from my arcade to this big Comic-Con event. Most people, when they hear Comic-Con, they're familiar with the San Diego Comic-Con. The Salt Lake Comic-Con, even though it's Salt Lake City, Utah, which isn't necessarily known for being, a massive population or anything, it's the third largest Comic-Con out of all the different Comic-Cons out there. They're not the same companies that run these. They just use the name Comic Convention or Comic-Con.
Huh.
And
I've never been to a Comic-Con, so...
Yeah, big events, and so I want to convert a game into a Sky Cursor and take it there and see what.
It looks like they use like old Dynamo cabs, like Oh,
Yeah, for what they have there, it's the Dynamo cabinets.
yeah,
But
I mean, it's a kick-ass game. It is.
Yeah, for right now, it's only got 2 missions, but with USB updates or using USB sticks, you'll be able to update it to add additional missions. I think they said they're going up to 6.
Sweet. I mean, I could use a new retro game like that to replace the Galaga machines and stuff. That's cheap. So
Converting a Galaga?
no.
Blasphemy.
I mean, we have like no. I'm not going to convert my Galaga. That would be sacrilege. It has an LCD though. Don't hate on me.
The pitchforks are going to be after you anytime now.
But it's a good half open frame one too though. So, yeah, the pitchforks can just throw all the hate right at my way. I don't really care. When you have as many games with as many monitors as I got, forget it. It's
Yeah,
I sleep at night. You know.
What's your opinion, Sarah, on CRT versus LCD?
She's gonna pitchfork.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I guess it would depend on the game. I've seen a lot of games here upgraded to LCD, obviously. Like Dave & Buster's has the Daytonas all upgraded. I guess that's a better move. But I have noticed some degradation in the LCD screens over there and some artifacting on them. So I mean, it's obviously a better solution than the original projection screens. I don't think it would be possible to keep those running these days.
Daytona has a funky output signal too. We upgraded those, and it was hard to get the even with the converter. Like it had like too much gain. It was weird. So.
I know Dave & Buster's I assume they upgraded them all chain wide as well because that's what they do, but I don't know. I mean, the projection screens on those are usually really dim at this point. I don't know how many people would be playing them if they looked very old and washed out like that. I mean, people would probably say, I'm not going to play this old game. I'm going to go play something better.
Yeah, they don't like it. It just looks old.
Yeah, it doesn't look very good, but the LCDs at Dave & Buster's, they've probably had them for a few years, and they might be showing a little bit of degradation, and I did notice that. Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, both ways. Both have their pros and cons, but right now for the Daytona, I would say the LCD is probably the way to go. At least the picture looks modern, and it looks like the TV you have in your house, which everyone, I assume, probably has upgraded to a flat screen by now, because I have. So.
I try not to change the aspect ratio as much as possible. But, like, in the classic games, we use the 4:3 monitors, which...
Right.
It keeps it pretty close. I've even gotten bigger TVs and put it in 4:3 mode and had a bunch of blank space that we hid with a bezel,
Right.
To make it. I did that to a Ben Hex Neo Geo actually.
Huh.
And it looked really good. Like if you haven't, it's just when they stretch it out, that's when it looks kind of weird.
Right.
Yeah, there's definitely some blank space around you can definitely tell that the picture is smaller with the LCDs, but overall I would say it's probably your only solution at this point in time with a machine like Daytona or even a Prop Cycle or a Top Skater. All those machines have those projection screens, and those are really hard to fix.
Yeah, the last big projection one I did was a Top Skater. Yeah, it looked really nice in the end, but I'm going to do it to my House of Dead 4 eventually.
Yeah. I've seen, I saw a Top Skater somewhere that was upgraded to LCD. But the Strong Museum has a Prop Cycle, and I don't think they're allowed to upgrade it because I think they have to keep the machines original over there. But it'll still work fine because, their arcade is dark. It doesn't have a lot of sunlight coming in, so the picture looked pretty good.
There are a lot of TV repair shops that are around still, believe it or not. They will fix those projection monitors.
Right.
It's not cheap, but...
No, I would imagine it's not, and... probably better to just go the LCD route this time around.
And we sold a game that was pretty far away from us, and it went out like a year later on him. The CRT did, and he didn't know how to get in there to take the chassis out. This guy had no electronic skills, so there's a local repair shop, like a TV repair shop. They handled it pretty well. So they're out there. They can help you. Monitors for arcade games are way easier than TVs. So.
Yeah, I know a guy in Wisconsin who does monitors on arcade games. I don't know if you're familiar with him. His name is Chad Entringer. I'd like to give him a props on this podcast because he's awesome.
I don't think I've ever met him. I know Brad.
Yeah, it's arcade. His website's arcadecup.com. He can fix any monitor basically, and he's awesome.
Well, I'll have to check him out.
Good to know.
Yeah, you'll definitely. You can do repairs from far away too. He even takes monitors from the United Kingdom as well.
Nice.
Wonder where he is.
He's in Green Bay, Wisconsin, I believe.
It's just Chad, or it's not Brad?
It's
Maybe.
Chad.
Is he the one that's got all the classic games up there? God. There's a guy who keeps buying like our Rockola cabinets from up there.
I don't think he would be
ask.
doing that. I don't think he would be doing that. He's mostly a repair guy, as far as I know.
Okay, he wasn't at because he spoke. I think his name is Brad. I don't remember his last name. I'm sorry, Brad.
Brad Chad.
I know it's just
Chad's
says
probably
Brad, it
going
just
to be
says my
listening
phone.
to this,
Brad
so-
from Green Bay buys games, so you know. Maybe he's going to your guy Chad to fix his monitors. So.
Maybe.
I think Chad is fixing some monitors for the Museum of Play, too.
Yeah, they did some museum thing around here a couple of years ago, and he probably was involved with that. I don't know. What do I know?
I don't know.
I don't know anything. All right. Well, apparently this guy named Jersey Jack said he didn't have any money trouble, but then he did, and now someone has bailed him out. So, Adam, why don't you tell us a little about that? Because I don't know.
Yeah, there's been lots of talk, usually just private chatter at trade shows. I don't know how it was going down on forums. But yeah, Jersey Jack Pinball, everybody's probably familiar with them. They came to the market, shook things up as far as pinball goes, since they provided some, at least some competition to Stern. And yeah, so there have been lots of talk about money troubles, and of course nobody's gonna come out and say, "Oh yeah, I'm really having problems," most of the time. But either way, Jersey Jack Pinball looks like they get to put that behind them finally, as they have 3 big investors. One of them, whose name is escaping me right now. Sorry, I guess I'm failing at my job. I should have had that handy. But he's some famous guy among financial circles, very charitable sort of guy. Loves pinball too, and so he dumped an unspecified amount of money into Jersey Jack, as well as some guy that used to work for Playboy.
It says Think Lab Ventures.
Think Lab Ventures was the main guy.
I think
Gotcha.
so.
And so, but either way, apparently a large sum of capital has come their way, so that they can finally finish the Hobbit pinball, which
it's a little late.
Yeah, that's been the thing too. Is the goalposts have been keep getting pushed back on that, unfortunately, over and over again. I mean, obviously they wanted to have it out in time for the 3rd Hobbit movie. I remember a long time ago they were optimistic about getting it out by the 2nd movie, but then that turned to the 3rd movie, and now it's past the DVD release. And so, yeah, with that money, they should be able to finish that game and get it out, as well as what's after that, which is Pat Lawlor's first
mysterious game.
Yes, the mysterious game. It's not based on a theme or a license.
Funhouse 2. No, just kidding.
Yeah, maybe, but I mean, still, if you know pinball, you've heard the name Pat Lawlor before. Everybody's familiar with him and has played his games.
What was the last game you did? Was it Roller Coaster Tycoon or Family Guy?
Probably Family Guy. I'm not 100% sure.
Or Shrek.
I could probably pull it up. I guess to be technical, it'd be Shrek. But
maybe he didn't have any input in that, though. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. They just reused the design.
All right, well.
And so yeah, Jersey Jack looks like
we might see games.
They'll be sticking around.
We might see games when you have the money ready. Maybe, hopefully, then I can finally buy one. You know.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully that'll solve all the issues, because I know there have been talk about technical problems with some of the parts and the games not working right. When we had Nick Lombardo from the Arcade Hunters podcast or website on, he was talking about how there's a lot of Wizard of Oz machines with some technical problems. They should be able to get that all resolved. And
in fairness, it was only like. I did do research on that sense, and it was only the first run or so. First year's worth of games. So they have fixed it, and they did honor Most of the
That's good.
somewhat. And I mean, this is from me. Okay, I'm being fair. So I mean,
Well, it's important that we be fair about that. I mean, I don't want to sound like bashing Jersey Jack. Just
it's good for him,
being honest about what we've heard out there.
It's been
You
a
know,
rough
and
road.
what I hope that they learn from this is that they won't be providing release dates until they're absolutely sure when it's going to be released. And even though it kind of sucks for when you want to know when a game's going to come out, I would prefer that you announce it when you're absolutely sure that you've got it ready to ship, as opposed to stringing people along and just keep making up dates as you go along. That's not very professional, I think.
That's a good way to piss off people.
Well, they're
by doing
pissed.
that.
Exactly. I mean, I've heard of plenty of people that have canceled their pre-orders.
Another good
I
way
mean,
to piss people off is go on the forums and like personally message people. That's a good.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as an operator that would be interested, I mean, I wanted to support Jersey Jack, but it's just a lot of this uncertainty and just a lot of this goalpost moving has made me less enthusiastic to do so. So I'm hoping that they'll be able to put that behind them, get past that growing pain, become a major player on the pinball market, and give us some good games that actually do earn well on site.
Well said. All right. Well, I think that's gonna about do it for us today. I don't know. Is there anything else
Did you want to talk about that smartphone payment system?
Oh, cripple! I did. I forgot about it. There's this new thing called Pay Range. It's totally awesome. You can. We'll talk about it next time when I get it. How's that?
Oh,
we're out
okay.
of time because
Do that.
we're on a build system now.
Okay.
I'll get the system. Just go check it out. It's called Pay Range. There's no fees. It's totally easy to install. It's in prototype stage. I'm getting some next month. I will definitely have the lowdown on it. So
Very interesting.
yeah. But, so why don't you send us off there, guy?
Well, I guess before that, anything you'd like to add to the cast, Sarah? Anything extra you might want to talk about?
Well, I just wanted to talk about the new Sega R360. It's not the new R360. It's the Transformers cabinet that is the R360. That is like the R360. It's basically the second version of the R360, which completely flabbergasted me that Sega would make a new R360. Mm-hmm. As you might know, I am the creator of the group on Facebook, the Sega R360 Fan Club, and my point of making the group was to try to make it so that the Sega R360 simulator machine is not forgotten. So I guess now I don't have to worry about that because Sega made an upgraded R360, even though that's only available as a special attraction in Joy Plus in Japan right now. It's still a cabinet that was made, and that's a good thing.
Right.
That's good.
Right. Yeah.
For fans of that game. I know I have quite a few fans of that game out here. I know not everyone's a fan of it, but I'm a big fan of the R360 because I played it when I was a teenager, and I just fell in love with the machine because it's so cool.
Right. Yeah, and this new one, it is very interesting. Obviously, it looks like they reused a lot of the same technology, but just upgraded with a lot of modern ideas. It's actually a two-seater. The R360 from the 90s, early 90s, was a single-seater. They did create linked versions, but it looks like this one, which is based on their Transformers Human Alliance light gun game, which is still out there making money. It's a two-seater and can also link, is almost what it looked like to me.
It looks like it was four to me. It looks like it was four cabinets with two people each.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I was thinking of would be nice to have in the R360 is a two-player version with a nice HD screen, and this new one is pretty much everything you're going to expect Sega to make out of this.
Apparently
it's basically everything you wanted.
Apparently it's officially called Transformers Human Alliance Special.
Yes, it is officially called that. I know someone was asking me about the actual machine name. I guess that would be the machine name of it. Doesn't seem to have a cabinet name as of yet. At least we haven't found that out yet. Yeah, special.
Right.
That's a very interesting machine that I know most people who are listening probably haven't played yet because it's only available in Japan, but hopefully they bring a version of that to the States soon.
There is a post at arcadeheroes.com with a video, so you can go check it out.
Yeah, and if you follow the Joy Plus account on Twitter, they seem to be posting a few more pictures of it. Hopefully, we'll get some footage from people in Japan, videos and pictures of the machines in the future.
Or see somebody trying to hold a drink in there.
Well, and I guess the one we'll know if they have a lot of interest on bringing it international if they bring one to IAPA 2015 and this November in Orlando. That was the trade show event where they first showed off their Showdown special, which was 4 Showdown cabinets with a unique curved screen, which unfortunately they dumped as a lot of people complained. They didn't like how the screen looked, said it was too grainy. Personally, I didn't mind it so much, but it also had a very cool motion seat in it, very realistic feel when you get sideswiped by another car. But yeah, so if they have a Transformers special there, then chances I would say are very good that we would be able to see one of those outside of Japan. Otherwise, most likely, it'll be
remain
one of those
a special attraction.
pleasures. Yeah, you would have to get by going to Tokyo. Now, one thing, I guess, really quick about Sega, their popular Sonic Dash mobile game is being turned into an arcade game. I am trying to get more information on this. They call it Sonic Dash Extreme. I've not played it. As far as I know, it's an endless runner with Sonic the Hedgehog and collecting rings. This new machine, at least, I don't know, it could be a prototype. It has an enormous D-pad controller.
Yeah, I see that.
Which I was very surprised to see. I've never seen anything quite
you
like that.
You have to have really big thumbs.
Just use your palms or have big palms.
Sure, that's quite
I kind of expected them to use something like a trackball, which for me, Tempo Run Arcade, I actually thought that worked really well. In fact, I like the trackball better than using a touchscreen, which...
That's a lot of R&D for that big D-pad, too. I mean, they had to make special stuff.
Right, yeah.
That sounds really interesting.
There's a picture of it on Arcade Heroes here.
Yeah,
the big watermark.
It's not a close-up. It's not a close-up picture. Hey, gotta keep them safe. But I mean, it wasn't a close-up picture anyways, so you couldn't really see a lot of detail.
Well, somebody named SNC's got the high score. I wonder if that's
right.
Sonic.
Whoever that is. But yeah, I'll see. I'm gonna try again, see what I can get from that, and also Crossy Road, which is a super popular. Basically, it's modern Frogger, just at a diagonal angle and lots of different
Looks like
animals you can
Frogger in
choose.
Minecraft land.
Right, they had a baby. But the only thing that I need to find out about this, I'm going to see if I can get some confirmation, is to me it looks like it's just a single button game. And my kids downloaded Crossy Road, and so I did get to see what that
more than one button on there.
all
There's
about.
2 buttons.
Oh, a start button and then the play button.
No,
but even then, you
button,
need
there's
essentially a joystick.
There's 3 buttons, forward, backwards, and it says.
Well, you need side to side.
Oh, you know what? There's a graphic on it though that says chicken versus duck.
Right.
So I bet you have to push that button really fast and walk.
Right, but it still seems like unless they've specially designed the levels so that you don't have to move sideways.
It's probably just a rip off of that other Frogger. That sucks.
Well, if it's got the Crossy Road name, so that means they did license it. It's just a question of whether.
They licensed Frogger too. Look what they did.
Well, that's what I'm saying is I'm hoping this isn't another Frogger. I'm hoping it's actually interactive because I know with the company that made the game, Adrenaline Amusements, they're based out of Canada. That's been their bread and butter is taking mobile games and converting them
into issues with them,
an arcade format. And I know you can set it up so that it's not ticket redemption. You could do amusement only. I kind of imagine that Crossy Road, even as amusement only, might do okay, or gift card version or whatever.
I hate to burst your bubble, dude, but I got a Benjamin that says that it is like the other Frogger game. Just
that it's what?
That it's the crappy push the button and the guy just walks.
Oh, gotcha. Well,
I hope not, but I mean.
Well, again, it could be a prototype. Who knows if they'll change their minds on it? But
maybe they'll listen to this and they'll realize what a mistake.
If they're still listening an hour later. But
gotta be more exciting, dude. I mean, come on.
That's right. We need more explosions.
Explosion Wednesday. All right. All right. Well, I think we should send her off. Send her off with a big bang. Uh-oh. Sarah, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, see, at least the podcast must go on. No more of this starting over stuff.
Okay.
This podcast is never going to end. It's just going to have to keep going and going.
It's going to be a marathon
ends.
podcast. We'll do the first marathon podcast for charity or something.
Goes on, my friend.
3 strikes, you're out. We have to redo.
Yeah. Yeah, if it gets cursed this time, then I guess I shouldn't come back to it because that means I've cursed it twice. And...
No, it's not you.
Okay.
Not you, it's me. Well, all right. I guess we'll close this up. Thank you again for listening, especially this far in. If you've listened to this, you're a real trooper. You're a real arcade hero. Buy my T-shirt that says you're an arcade hero. Only $20 on TeePublic.
That's pretty good. I like that.
And I added a new T-shirt to it, which for the next less than 24 hours left, you can get it for only $14.
How come everyone buys my T-shirts on there? They just buy yours. What's going on?
That's right. Buy more Arcade Heroes T-shirts. Be part of the team. Be a hero.
Vote for all Castle games. No more Arcade Heroes. Come on.
Boo.
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 Oh, jeez.
But, yeah, for my part, you know the website. It's arcadeheroes.com. We've got Facebook. We've got the Twitters. We've got the YouTubes. I'll have a new One Credit Play Monday up on Monday. I'm also working on a Star Wars video, kind of a commercial, but that's more for my arcade, not for Arcade Heroes. But, yeah, check it out, and I'll let the two of you close out with your stuff. So take it away.
All right, I got 3 words. All Castle games. Look it up in Google. Find us on Facebook, and buy my T-shirts, please. Please. I mean, maybe just like one. You know, just one would help.
Pretty please.
Then I can get a sandwich. You know. So that's all I got to say. So it was nice having you on the podcast, Sarah. Why don't you send us off? And,
Okay, you can like my page on Facebook at facebook.com/arcadephotos. It's called The Arcade Photographer. What I do is I take pictures around various arcades. I started taking pictures in 1999, so you'll see a lot of pictures that are probably pretty bad from that era. But you'll see a lot of interesting machines I've taken pictures of over the years. And you can also join my group on Facebook, the Sega R360 fan club. You can Google it, and I'm also Sarah AB87 on Twitter.
Sweet. I'm going there.
Don't be afraid to friend me or like me or whatever. I don't bite, so.
Oh, and you can also find this podcast on iTunes now. Thank you.
Yes, hooray! Good job, Sean.
Yay! This should make it much easier for people to listen to us.
Right. Maybe.
Well, we'll catch you guys
write
next
a
time.
review too, so we get up at the the thing.
That's right. Good 5-star reviews or 10-star reviews.
1-star reviews are fine too. I don't care. Just put a review down.
I care.
Oh, I don't. All right. Thanks for listening.
All right. Later.
Bye.